But let's talk about the business issues. Why should business care about this case?
Well, ultimately, business is about talent, and we want to make sure we're a magnet for the best and brightest from all over the world. So we really attract people here. The discussion right now about immigration is who do we keep out, and that's a legitimate discussion to have. But we also have to have a discussion about how do we bring people here. It's now we're seeing innovation entrepreneurship globalize, and we're going to remain the most innovative entrepreneurial nation. We need to win what's now a global battle for talent. So some of the provisions like a startup visa or the international entrepreneur rule, they're going to be very important to make sure we build bipartisan support for those things, so people who do come here, get great educations, get a PhD or what have you, are able to stay here. One example I mentioned in my book, The Third Wave, is somebody graduated from Wharton, the same school that President Trump went to, started a company, wanted to stay here, couldn't because he couldn't extend his visa, got kicked out, had to go back home, which happened to be India, and that company, Snapdeal, now has 5,000 employees in India, and he wanted to be in the United States. So this issue of immigration is not just a problem to solve, it's also an opportunity to seize. It's not just about who do we keep out, it's also how do we bring people in that can create the jobs of the future all across the country.
So Steve, you're joined with some other very distinguished leaders of tech industry making that argument. At the same time, when we look at this case, this is 7 countries. Is this more about the next case than it is about this one? I mean, really, how many people are we bringing in from Libya to work in our tech industry?
Yeah, I think this issue around the executive order has less to do with the issue around high-skilled immigration, but it's the first battle around immigration. I think part of the, and I listened to some of, not all, but some of the debate last night with the judges. I thought they actually asked very tough questions on both sides. So it actually was a reminder that we have a great judicial system here, and although people might get frustrated about some of the things that happen in terms of the politics of things, it's great to see them asking tough questions. I don't know how they will rule, but I do think they asked some tough questions on both sides. I think part of what they were asking and pressing the Justice Department on was, what is the urgency now? And I think part of this is some of the statements that President Trump made, some of his advisors made during the campaign and even after the campaign were sort of alarmist, and they really were suggesting there was something. Now, we don't know exactly what information the president has. It is a tough issue because in general the president should have control over national security issues. They have intelligence that the rest of us don't have. But I think the perception I have, and I think what I was hearing from some of the justices, it wasn't clear that President Trump had information that really created the urgency that he was suggesting was there.
So, Steve, what we do know is no matter what the court rules, it's going to go to the Supreme Court most likely. So I want to take a broader step back and look at what tech does for the longer term. Do they wind up trying to hire internally and have to pay more for U.S. workers, or are they going to have to start moving business overseas to retain those workers that may have issues coming into the U.S.? With your experience, which is most likely, and what does that wind up doing to profits?
Well, I think it's a little bit of a false choice. I mean, the nature of your question suggested that somehow the high-skilled people coming from other countries are getting paid less, and that's one of the reasons that they're attracted. That may be true in some fields. In the tech field, that's not really the case. I mean, we really need to attract people from all over the country, and particularly around the engineering side of things. And many of the companies now, it's not just the tech industry. Almost every company is now a tech company. Walmart, for example, is a big user of technology. McDonald's is a big user of technology. So that's why these jobs are so important. But the other thing I think that needs to happen, and I think Silicon Valley has been a little bit tone deaf on this, is one of the reasons President Trump won is a lot of people in the middle of the country feel left behind. They aren't seeing the benefits of innovation, including the benefits of job creation, and there's a reason why that's the case. Last year, 85% of the venture capital went to the states that Clinton won. Only 15% went to the states Trump won. Over 30 states in aggregate only got 15% of venture capital. California alone got 50% of venture capital. So what's happening is the venture capitals are funding the disruptive companies in places like Silicon Valley that are creating new technologies that often disrupt and destroy jobs in the middle of the country, but we're not offsetting that by backing the entrepreneurs in the middle of the country so they can create the companies and create the jobs in Pennsylvania and Ohio and Michigan and these other states. That has to change, what we call the rise of the rest. We need more capital flowing to more entrepreneurs in more places and level the playing field so everybody everywhere has a shot at the American dream.